órale, guachamitacuche, y aliviánese con mis calcos, mitando, Lisa Tramos y Carlango ese. Nel, ¿sabe qué? Usted está muy verdolaga. ¿Cómo se me hace que es puro square ese?
Some called him a pachuco. Many called him a zoot suiter. Dressed in the flamboyant style of the Harlem jazz musician, he came out of the America of the 40s, from cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and many other cities. He was a mythical street character, the neighborhood tough guy, feared by some, idolized by others.
Ladies and gentlemen, our Pachuco realities will only make sense if you grasp their mystification. The Pachuco style was an act in life. His language was a new creation. His will to be was an awesome force. His reality, existential. For he was an actor on the street, both profane and reverential. It is a secret fantasy of every vato, living in or out of the chicanada, to put on the zoot suit and play the myth. Más chucote que la tiznada. Pues órale.
Put on a zoot suit, makes you feel real good. Look like a diamond, sparkling and shining. Ready for dancing, ready for the boogie tonight. All the hip cats up in Harlem wear that drape shape. From all the Pachucones down in L.A. Where we says in the pompadours look real key. On the dance floors of the ballrooms on the byline swing. You better get hep tonight and put on a zoot suit.
In the 40s, the world was jumping, bumping, and going crazy. Across the Atlantic, a freaked-out painter had started a gang called the Nazis. In the Pacific, teenage pilots flew suicide missions into Allied ships, all in the name of God and country. In the so-called home of the free land of the brave, race riots erupted in Harlem, and even with geniuses like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Charlie Parker, and Dizzy Gillespie, black people were still being treated like they had no investment in America. And there was a new group pouring into American cities, East and West, Latinos looking for work. It was their kids who were bopping strong in the ghettos of the country. Wetback became the new dirty word, spick the new epithet. Every other immigrant had found a place in American society. Latinos were being shut out, ostracized. And almost to compensate for their rejection by the dominant culture, Latino kids began to develop their own sense of beauty, language, and color. Yeah, they spoke Spanish, but it wasn't Castilian. It was street, and it was theirs. Their music was percussive, hypnotic, and they dressed, Lord, did they dress. They took America's fashions like the zoot suit and magnified the colors, glorified the cut. It was like saying, hey, America, you want some style? Check us out, ese. Zoot Suit is a new theatrical event on Broadway of events affecting Mexicans in America during the 40s. Lay back, listen, feel the power and magic of the first Hispanic play on the Great White Way.
Escúchase loco, vamos al bolo, where the Carlango, transitando, dance with your wee side, dance to the boogie tonight. But it's is the crazy California, they viene Colorado, en Arizona, they're wearing that tacuche in El Paso, en todos los salones de Chicago. You better get hep tonight and put on a zoot suit. Ha!
Ese.
Psst, Hank. Que pues no es.
Órale, pues where the hell you been?
Pues checking out the barrio. Qué desmadre, no.
What the hell's going on? Ese, this thing's big.
City's cracking down on pachucos, carnal. Don't you read the newspapers? They're screaming for blood.
Well, they got nothing on me. See, I haven't done anything.
You're Hank Reina, carnal. Henry Reina. The snarling juvenile delinquent. The Zoot suitor. The bitter young Pachuco gang leader from 38th Street. That's what they got on you, ese.
I don't like this, ese. I don't like being locked out.
Calmantes, montes, chicas, patas. Haven't I taught you to survive? Play it cool, ese.
Que no entiendes, ese. They're gonna do it again. They're gonna charge me with some phony rap and keep me here until they make it stick.
So what's new?
I was supposed to report to the Navy tomorrow.
I know. Muy patriotic,
Yeah.
Off to fight for your country.
Why not?
Because this ain't your country, pues ¿qué traes? Look what's happening all around you, ese. The Japs have sold up the Pacific. Rummel's kicking butts in Egypt. But the mayor of LA's declared an all-out war on Chicanos on you, te curas. Que desmadre, no. Is that what you want to go out and die for? Why's up? These petty cops have it in for you, carnal. You're a marked man. They think you're the enemy. And as soon as the Navy finds out you're in jail again, ya estuvo. Unfit for military duty because of your record. Think about it.
I was all set to come back a hero, ese te curas. For the first time in my life, I thought Hank Reina was really going someplace.
Forget the war overseas, carnal. Your war's on the home front.
What do you mean?
The barrio needs you, ese. Fight back. Show the world that Chicano has some guts. Stand up to them with some style. Hang tough, you can take it. And remember, Pachuco yo, ese.
Con zafos, carnal.
Luis Valdez is the very gifted writer and director of Zoot. He's also the director of Teatro Campesino, a cultural group that brings theater to Chicano communities in California and all over the United States. Luis, welcome to New York. Zoot is an interesting way of getting into American playwriting because it's something we all can relate to. And it also uses a central character, Pachuco. Why start with Zoot?
Well, in some ways because that is the beginning of our Latin urban presence, you know, in the United States. An American presence, if you want. I call the play Zoot because Zoot belongs to everybody in the country. Anybody can relate to a Zoot, you know, whether you're black or Latin or white or what have you. The name itself is very American, you know. It occurred here, Zoot. Mm-hmm. And so the Pachuco wore the Zoot, only he called himself a Pachuco.
And he magnified the colors. He took it out. He stretched it a little bit.
He wanted to look like a diamond, ¿entiendes?
Yeah.
The Pachuco appeared at the beginning of World War II, right at the crux, when the United States needed Latin America. President Roosevelt saluting the good neighbors in Latin America. What it forged was a new image of the continent as a whole, yes? And what it means is that there's an urban presence, there's a presence of Latin American identity in America, in the United States, that is as much American as anything that has ever been present before.
Zoot takes place in the 40s, and we'd like to show you a taped segment of Zoot that gives you the ambience, the culture, and some of the language of that time in our history.
De los bailes que me invité, el bolero y el pillín, de todos los bailes juntos, me gusta bailar el swing. ¡Hey!
Luis, one of the things that occurs to me is that in Zoot Suit, there is the emergence of a Latino aesthetic, a new way of looking at fashion, a new way of looking at language, a new way of looking at ourselves. Do you see such a thing as a Latino aesthetic?
Of course, of course. I mean, it has to do with a certain amount of flamboyance. It has to do with a love of color, a love of rhythm and dance, you know. And it has also to do with a certain style that allows for survival, okay? And one of the things about the Pachuco style is the sense of humor, believe it or not. And there's a lot of that in the play, as a matter of fact. It's what we call el vacilón, you know what I mean?
Sure, they have it here.
And that merges exactly, you know, with the whole idea of doing theater and not taking the play too seriously, of being able to twist reality and laugh about it.
That has a lot to do with you, too. Because one of the things I read about you is you say never stay in one place too long and never take yourself seriously. Keep moving.
That's when the immigration's after you.
Is that? That's a migrant philosophy. It works very well in Zoot Suit. How do you see it moving? What do you see the future of theater for Latinos in the United States?
Well, I think one of the most important things that's happening with Zoot Suit is that not only the play on stage, but also the audience in the theater. And bringing Latinos into the audience and mixing them with the regular theater crowd, whatever that is, you see, black audiences coming in and mixing is creating a whole new environment in the theater, man. It's fun, it's open, it's warm, it's alive, it's vibrant, it echoes the performance. I think that Latinos in the theater, blacks in the theater, are going to feed an element into the American theater that's going to change the plays on stage. It's going to give them more life, more vitality, más chile, you know, más salsa, if you will.
Yeah.
You know? And I think not only Latino plays, Latinos shouldn't only come to see Latino plays or blacks to see black plays, but theater audiences should come to see theater, ¿ves? Y eso es lo que va a pasar. That's what's going to happen.
You know, Luis, often when we create art for an emerging group, we're very afraid of stereotypes. We don't want to do what others see, what the dominant culture sees as the negative ideal. And yet you took the stereotype of the gangs and centralized your play around them. Why?
Well, one thing is I wanted to attack the problem where it lies, okay? And I think that the image of the Latino nationally is, in fact, the image of the street punk, you know? The guy says, hey, I ain't gonna talk, ha! You know, that image. You see him on TV, you see him in the movies.
Right.
And so I attacked it directly, which makes the play really basically at its most universal level the story of the transition from adolescence to manhood. The story of Henry Reina is just that. It's the rites of passage.
Oh, yeah, the
You see?
masculinity ritual.
Right, and there were some tight corners, you know, that I couldn't get out of because gangs did fight, there were switchblades involved, ducktails, all of that. But again, through the Pachuco and through the magic of the theater and through the magic of el vacilón, where we can turn reality around and stop it and use the theater any way we want, the problem is dealt with, as you can see in the play.
Toca mambo sabrosón, se alborota el corazón y con una chavalona vamos a bailar el mambo.
He started it, ese. Él comenzó a fregar conmigo.
You're a little out of your territory, no crees, Rafas?
Charlie, it's a barrio dance. We're from the barrio.
You're from down, you say.
Vale madre, down y rifa. What are you gonna do about it?
Te voy a dar en la madre. ¡Dámela!
You and how many vatos?
Just me and you. You see, that's my camarada you're pushing around there, see? And nobody messes with my gang without answering to me, ese. Hank Reina.
All right!
You think you can push me around like you did my camita? Oh, come on. Come on!
Que chiflada, Hank. But that's exactly what the play needs right now, ese. 2 more Mexicans killing each other. Watcha. Everybody's looking at you. Talk about patties, they say. You got company.
Hi, boys.
Trucha.
My name's George Shearer. Your parents retained me to handle your case. You mind if we sit and talk about it a bit?
Better check him out, they say. He smells like a cow.
Póngase Lalo a vatos. Este me huele a chota.
What was that? Did you say to sit down? Thank you. Well, the first thing we better do is get your name straight. Let's see here. Who's Jose Castro?
Right here, ese. What do you want to know?
We'll get to that. Ismael Torres.
That's me. but they call me Smiley.
Smiley.
Simon.
Oh, I see. Yes, sir. You must be Thomas Roberts?
Well, do you see any other white hip cats?
Well, then you must be Henry Rayner.
So what if I am? Who are you?
I already told you my name is George Shear. Your parents asked me to come.
Yeah? Where did our parents get the money for a lawyer?
They didn't. I'm a people's lawyer, Henry.
People's lawyer.
But Simon, you see, we're people.
Hey, at least they didn't send no animals, lawyer.
Orale. So what does that mean? You gonna do this for free or what?
Well, I don't like to work for free if I can help it, Henry, but sometimes I do. In this case, I expect to be paid for my services.
Yeah? Well, who's paying you for what and how much?
Hey, hold on there. I'm the one that's supposed to ask the questions. You're the one that's going on trial, not me.
Don't let them throw you, ese.
Now, I sat in a little bit of the grand jury, and that was quite a farce, wasn't it? Murder, one indictment, and all that.
Do you think we stand a chance?
You always stand a chance, Smiley. That's what a trial is for.
You didn't answer your question, ese.
You didn't answer my question, mister. Who's paying you and how much?
Well, Henry, that's really none of your damn business. For what it's worth, I'll tell you a little story. The first murder case I ever tried, and won, incidentally, was for a Filipino. I was paid exactly $3.50 plus a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes. And a note for $1,000 never redeemed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, how do we know you're really a lawyer?
Now, how do I know you're Henry Rayner? What do you really mean, son? You think I'm a cop?
Maybe.
What are you trying to hide from the cops? Murder?
Hey, wait a minute.
All right. Aside from your parents, I was called into this case by a citizens committee. It's being formed on your behalf, Henry. Despite evidence to the contrary, there are some people out there that don't want to see you get the shaft.
Well, ¿sabes qué, mister? Don't do us any favors.
Okay, you want another lawyer. All right, I'll talk to the public defender's office about it.
Wait a minute, ese. Where you going, loco?
De cincho se le va a volar la tapa.
Okay, kids, knock it off.
Debemos de darle quebrada, Hank.
Thank you. You know, I think you're making a big mistake. I wonder if you all know who your friends really are. You realize that you boys are facing a mass trial. Do any of you know what that is? Because, frankly, it's a new one on me. But the grand jury has indicted all of you for the same identical crime. And that's not just the four of you. That is the whole so-called 38th Street gang. And you know who the main target is? You, Henry. Because they say you're the ringleader, and I suppose you are. But right now, I see you leading your buddies right down a dead-end street. The DA is coming after you, son. And he's going to put you and your whole gang right in the gas chamber.
Hey, we're not
Okay! Say we believe you're a lawyer. What does that prove? The press has already tried and convicted us. You think you can change that?
Probably not. But public opinion comes and goes, Henry. What matters is our system of justice. I happen to believe that it still works, no matter how slowly the wheels may grind. And it could be a long uphill fight, but we can make it. I know we can. I promised your parents the best defense that I'm capable of. Now, the question is, Henry, will you trust me?
Why should I? You're a gringo.
¿Cómo sabes?
You speak Spanish?
Más o menos.
You mean you understood us a little while ago?
More or less. Don't worry. I'm not much on your Pachuco slang. The problem seems to be that I look Anglo to you. Well, what if I was to tell you that I had Spanish blood in my veins? What if I was to tell you that my roots go back to Spain, just like yours? Or what if I'm an Arab? What if I'm a Jew? What the hell difference does that make? The question still is, Henry, will you let me help you?
Charlie.
Okay.
Okay, now we can get to work. I want you guys to tell me exactly what happened right from the beginning.
Well, I think the trouble really started at the dance last Saturday night.
En los bailes que me entré, el bolero y el pillín, de todos los bailes juntos, me gusta bailar el swing. ¡Hey!
What do you see in terms of the Latin generation of the 80s?
Well, I think with that wave that started in the 40s started to peak in the 60s, you know, as a result of the civil rights movement in the country. A new Latino identity emerged. And what I see now in the 80s is that what we called as our Latin pride, you know, whether we were Boricuas or whether we were Chicanos or what have you, is being merged with a new definition of what it means to be American.
What we're talking about is the beginning of new American theater, which is what you call Zoot, a new American play. And that's what I feel. That kind of vibrancy, that kind of energy for the 80s. We may become the Rainbow People after all. Luis Valdez, writer and director of Zoot, which is going to be on Broadway for a long time to come. And as we talked about it, we see it as the emergence of a new American theater. Luis, we want to thank you very much for having come to WNBC. Thank also the cast of Zoot for us. We wish you a very long and extended run on Broadway. And to those of you listening, we hope you do catch it at the Winter Garden. It is called Zoot. It is the first American play that comes from Hispanos in the United States. And when you see it, you will see the magic and energy of the people we call Chicanos.
Ahí los guachamos.
Put on a Zoot, makes you feel real woo. Look like a diamond, sparkling and shining, ready for dancing, ready for the boogie tonight. All the hip cats up in Harlem wear that drape shape. Come on, look at your corner down in L.A. Where we serve in the pompadours look real key. On the dance floors of the ballrooms on the byline swing. You better get hip tonight and put on a Zoot.
The Mark Taper Forum production of Zoot, produced on Broadway by the Schubert Organization, the Center Theater Group of Los Angeles, and Gordon Davidson.